When did you first taste failure? Not just the little stumbles, not the harmless rejections, but real soul-crushing, you question everything about yourself, failure? Maybe it was the first time you heard the word no, after giving everything you had. Maybe it was the time you gave your heart to a dream, and life answered with silence. Maybe you invested months, years into something that never gave back. We've all met failure, and it doesn't knock politely. It barges in, it interrupts, it humiliates. But here's what nobody told you. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the door. The key isn't to avoid it. The key is to unlock it. And the people who rise, the people who soar, the people who seem unstoppable, they aren't the ones who never failed. They're the ones who figured out how to keep becoming even when everything was falling apart. Let me take you there. Because this is not just a speech. This is your mirror, your map, your moment. You ready? Success is not for the lucky. It's not handed down in genetics or granted by some mysterious force. Success is reserved for the relentless, the ones who learn how to dance with failure and not flinch. And before you roll your eyes or say, "I've heard that before," let me challenge you with this. If failure didn't exist, would you still grow? Think about that. If everything came easy, would you still push yourself to become more? See, failure isn't just part of the journey. It is the very terrain on which success is built. Without it, there's no wisdom. Without it, there's no strength. Without it, there's no story. But what blocks most people from walking through the barrier is not failure itself. It's their relationship with it. Let's talk about mindset. Because here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they believe failure defines them. They attach their identity to the outcome. I failed, so I must be a failure. But hear me clearly. Failure is an event. It is not a person. You're not broken. You're not done. You're not beyond repair. You're in the middle of the refining process, the exact same one that every giant before you has walked through. Thomas Edison tried 0 times to create the light bulb. 10,000. Imagine if he quit at 999. You wouldn't be reading this in light. But Edison didn't see those attempts as mistakes, saw them as information. Feedback, data, growth. That's the mindset of a master. So ask yourself, what story do you tell yourself when you fall short? Is it one of shame and retreat? Or is it one of learning and recalibration? The story you tell yourself, that's the foundation of everything. Now let's dig deeper. Because belief is the soil your success will either die in or grow from. Most people think belief is about positive thinking, that if you say enough affirmations, your life will magically shift. But real belief is not words. It's behavior. It's what you choose to do when your back is against the wall. It's waking up after a failure and still showing up, still swinging, still sweating. That's belief in action. You can't fake belief. You demonstrate it. You prove to yourself through movement that you still believe in your worth, your dream, your direction. And when you act in belief long enough, something amazing happens. The world starts to believe in you too, because people can feel it. They know when someone walks into a room and has already defeated failure in their mind. That person commands respect not because they're loud, but because they've walked through the fire and they're still here. So let me ask you, what do you believe about you? Do you believe your past disqualifies you? Do you believe your failures are final? Or do you believe there's more in you than you've ever let out? Because belief is not about ego. It's about alignment. And until your beliefs align with the vision of who you want to become, you will self-sabotage every single time. Clarity. Most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they're confused. They haven't defined what success means to them. So every failure feels like devastation when really it was just misdirection. You cannot hit a target you never set. You can't overcome what you haven't named. Clarity is power. It makes failure useful. When you're clear on what you want, every mistake becomes a compass. Oh, not this way? Good. Let's adjust. Let's sharpen. Let's move. But when you're unclear, every mistake feels like an earthquake. The successful treat failure like feedback. The unclear treat failure like final judgment. So define it. What does success mean to you? Not your parents, not society, not social media. You. Is it freedom, impact, mastery, peace? Once you're clear, failure becomes directional. And when failure becomes directional, it becomes a gift. Vision is the fuel. Clarity defines the destination. But vision makes you burn for it. Vision gives pain a purpose. When the nights are long, the rejections are brutal, and the support is gone. Vision is what whispers, we're not done yet. But vision isn't just about goals. It's about identity. You don't just imagine what you want to have you visualize who you must become. A clear vision forces you to change. It doesn't let you stay mediocre. It challenges you. It calls out the stronger version of you hiding underneath the hesitation. So paint your vision vividly. See it, smell it, taste it, feel it. If your vision doesn't give you goosebumps, it's not big enough. Let it be so clear that failure feels like a detour, not a death sentence. Now we arrive at purpose. Why do you want it? Because this matters more than you think. When the failures pile up and the doubts scream louder than your dreams, your why is what keeps you breathing. Weak reasons breed weak effort. Strong purpose pulls you through the mud and keeps your head above water. If your reason for rising isn't strong enough to move you through pain, it won't last. So dig deeper. Is it your family? Is it the legacy you want to leave? Is it proving to yourself after all these years that you are worthy? Your purpose doesn't need to impress anyone. It just needs to ignite you. Let it be personal. Let it be raw. And let it be the reason you turn failure into fuel. Discipline. Discipline, the unsexy word that nobody wants to talk about. But let me tell you something real. Discipline is love in motion. It's you saying to your dream, I will show up for you, even when I don't feel like it. Because motivation fades, emotions shift, but discipline is a decision. And most people fail not because they lack ambition, but because they lack consistency. They show up once, get burned, and never return. But success belongs to the consistent, not the intense. Discipline is choosing to rise when comfort begs you to sit. It's doing the reps, even when the results haven't shown up yet. It's faith in practice. It's proof that you're serious. And the more you choose discipline, the more your failures become stepping stones, not tombstones. Let's now walk into action, because nothing changes until you move. You can think, believe, visualize, and journal all you want. But if you don't act, you don't grow. The world rewards doers. And here's the paradox: most people wait until they feel ready to take action. But you will never feel fully ready. You will never be 100% sure. You will never have every answer. So act anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move while fear is still screaming. Massive success is built on small, repeated actions. You don't climb Everest in one leap. You climb it one disciplined step at a time. So take the step, even if you're scared, even if you failed last time, even if no one claps for you. Move. Because when you move, you build momentum. And momentum beats motivation every single time. Gratitude. Now, you might be thinking, what does gratitude have to do with failure? Because failure doesn't just test your strategy, it tests your spirit. And if your spirit becomes bitter, if your heart grows cold, you lose more than momentum. You lose yourself. Gratitude is the secret weapon that softens the blow of failure while sharpening your focus for the next round. It's you looking at life and saying, I may not have what I want yet, but I'm stronger because of the struggle. I'm wiser because of the wound. Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about seeing value in the pain. It's about learning to say, thank you, failure. You showed me what doesn't work. You revealed who's real. You humbled my ego. You revealed my gaps. You taught me where I need to grow. Gratitude makes you resilient. Because when you're grateful, you're grounded. And grounded people don't panic when the storm comes. They plant deeper roots. Now let's talk about adaptability. Because the truth is, life will not go according to your plans. You will be thrown off course. You will be disappointed. And here's the reality. The most successful people aren't the smartest. They're the most adaptable. They don't marry one method. They stay loyal to the mission, but flexible in the approach. When one door closes, they don't stare at it for 10 years hoping it will open again. They pivot. They ask better questions. What does this failure make possible now? Adaptability is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's you saying, my dream still lives, even if the method has to evolve. Most people fail because they refuse to change direction. They keep pushing in the same broken way, hoping something will magically shift. But the world belongs to those who can bend without breaking, those who adjust without abandoning their purpose. Then comes resilience, not just grit, not just endurance, but deep inner resilience. This is the kind of power that builds not in success, but in your darkest moments. It's the voice inside you that says, I'm tired, but I'm not done. I'm bleeding, but I'm still breathing. I'm hurting, but I'm healing. Resilience is forged in the fire of repeated failure. It's when everything in you wants to quit, but something stronger rises. You don't learn resilience from books. You earn it from battles. And if you've been knocked down lately, hear this. You're not broken. You're becoming. You're not weak. You're in training. Your resilience is being chiseled in silence so that when the moment comes, you won't just survive, you'll lead. And now we arrive at the final force that ties it all together, learning. Because failure without reflection is wasted. But failure with reflection, that's your masterclass. Every setback is a syllabus. Every misstep is a mentor. But only if you pause long enough to ask, what is this here to teach me? Don't rush past the pain. Don't numb it. Don't ignore it. Sit with it. Study it. Squeeze the wisdom from it. Because success is not built on talent alone. It's built on the ability to extract insight from every fall. You see, a person who fails once and never learns is stuck. But a person who fails 5 times and grows 5 levels deeper, that person is unstoppable. So study yourself. Study your habits, your patterns, your blind spots. Become a student of your own life. And when you learn, really learn, you stop fearing failure because you know it always brings a gift. Now let me bring it all together, not as a conclusion, but as a call to action. You failed. So what? You're scarred. Good. You've been humbled. Even better. Because now you have what most people spend their whole lives avoiding, the raw material for greatness. And the truth is this. The most successful people you admire, they're not where they are in spite of failure. They're there because of it. They failed louder. They failed bigger. They failed with their whole heart. But they got back up faster. They learned quicker. They loved deeper. They trusted themselves, even when the world said, sit down. So now it's your turn. Your dream still lives. Your vision still matters. And your failures, they are not graves. They are gardens. Now rise. Let the fire in your bones be louder than the fear in your mind. Let your heart beat for something greater than perfection. Let your life echo with resilience. Because the key to overcoming failure's barrier is you. And you were never meant to quit. Let's go deeper. Because even after you rise from failure once, life doesn't promise you won't fall again. This isn't a one-time test. This is a lifestyle. And the people who become truly unshakable are the ones who develop what I call emotional immunity. They don't just know how to get back up. They've trained their nervous system to remain steady when the storm hits. They've failed so many times that failure no longer frightens them, it focuses them. So let me ask you, can you train yourself to feel the sting and still move forward? Can you be rejected and not reduce your self-worth? Can you lose and not label yourself a loser? Because when you can do that, you become dangerous in the best way possible. Unstoppable. Because your emotions no longer control your execution. And that's the edge most people never develop. Here's another truth that no one likes to hear. Some failure is your fault. And that's okay. Because extreme ownership is not about blame, it's about power. You see, as long as it's someone else's fault, you have no control. But when you say, no, this was on me, you reclaim the keys to your own evolution. You stop pointing fingers and start building character. And that's when transformation happens. Not when you make excuses, but when you make adjustments. Be honest with yourself. Maybe you didn't prepare. Maybe you procrastinated. Maybe you let fear drive the wheel. Own it. Forgive yourself. Then fix it. That's how leaders are mad not in the glow of applause, but in the silence of self-awareness. Now we talk about identity. Because if you don't change who you are at the core, no strategy will stick. You must become the kind of person who succeeds. Not just act like one, become one. And here's the key most miss. Identity is built through repetition, not revelation. It's not one powerful quote, one emotional video, or one good day that shifts you. It's the daily decision to act in alignment with the person you want to be. You want to be confident? Speak with truth, even when your voice shakes. You want to be consistent? Show up, even when motivation leaves. You want to be unstoppable? Do the work, even when nobody is watching. Identity isn't built in public. It's forged in the hidden hours when you could have quit but chose not to. Let's now get brutally honest about what separates the 1% who break through from the 99% who don't. Emotional discipline. You've been trained to chase feelings. Feel good? Work hard. Feel bad? Shrink back. But feelings are not your God. They are not your compass. They are not your identity. They are signals, not instructions. And the mature mind knows how to hear the feeling and still do what needs to be done. The gym doesn't care how you feel. The vision doesn't care if you're tired. The dream doesn't check your emotional state before deciding whether to come true. Discipline is doing it regardless. It's saying, my feelings are real, but my future matters more. That's the shift that changes your life. And now we arrive at something rarely discussed, but absolutely vital. Forgiveness. Because one of the greatest barriers to success is not external failure. It's internal resentment. You can't rise while dragging bitterness. You can't build while holding grudges. Some of you aren't failing because you lack strategy. You're failing because your heart is heavy. You're mad at the people who left. You're mad at the boss who didn't see your worth. You're mad at yourself for not being perfect. But listen carefully. You don't forgive for them. You forgive to move. Forgiveness is fuel. It clears the runway for your greatness. Let go not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because your future deserves the full version of you, not the one weighed down by the past. Let's go further. Let's talk about environment. You can't plant a seed in concrete and expect it to bloom. And you can't place your dream in toxic soil and expect it to grow. Your surroundings matter. The conversations you hear, the energy you absorb, the expectations around you, they either pull you forward or keep you small. So ask yourself, are you surrounded by vision or by fear? By people who see your greatness or by people who keep you tame? Success is not just about effort, it's about exposure. What are you breathing in every day? If your environment doesn't stretch you, it shrinks you. Sometimes the biggest breakthrough is not internal, it's positional. Move. Upgrade your circle. Clean your space. Feed your mind. Because you cannot become who you're meant to be while staying where you've always been. We're getting closer to the part of you that's been waiting to awaken. Let's talk about timing. Because some of you feel like you're late. You failed. And now you think it's too late to rise again. Let me free you from that lie. You're not late. You're right on time for the version of you that's being born. Your delay is not denial. It's development. You weren't supposed to succeed back then because who you were couldn't carry the weight of where you were going. You needed the heartbreak. You needed the silence. You needed the isolation. Because sometimes it takes breaking to become whole. So breathe. You didn't miss your window. Your window is opening now because you're finally becoming the person who's ready to walk through it. Let me end this not with motivation, but with a mandate. You were not put here to live small. You were not designed to exist in the shadow of your failures. You were built for greatness, not comfort. For impact, not survival. So here's your choice. Keep dragging the weight of your past failure, or use it to build your future fortress. Turn your wounds into wisdom. Turn your regret into rhythm. Turn your losses into leverage. Because the key was never out there. It's been in you the whole time. And now, the world is waiting to see what you'll do with it. Rise. They lied to you. Not because they wanted to hurt you, but because they didn't know better. They told you success was a destination, a place you arrive at, a title you earn, a house you buy, a car you drive, a number in your bank account. They said if you work hard, say the right things, shake the right hands, maybe, just maybe, you'd get there. But they never told you the truth. The truth is, success isn't a finish line. It's not a reward. It's not something you get. Success is something you build every day, brick by invisible brick, when no one's watching and everything inside you wants to quit. Success is not what you have, it's who you become. It's in the way you speak when no one's listening. It's in the decisions you make when the pressure is real. It's in the quiet promises you keep to yourself when motivation is gone and discipline is the only thing left standing. You don't create success by shouting. You don't create success by faking. You don't create success by chasing the appearance of it. You create success by becoming a person who can't help but attract it because of how solid, how disciplined, how convicted you've trained your soul to be. Success is not given. It's not inherited. It's forged. Forged in early mornings and late nights. Forged in self-doubt and still showing up. Forged in the moment you decide to stop blaming your past, your parents, your boss, the system, and start owning every second of your future. Real success doesn't look like applause. It looks like alignment. It looks like getting up and doing the work when no one understands your vision. It looks like choosing integrity when shortcuts are everywhere. It looks like delaying gratification when everyone else is cashing out for comfort. It's the way you carry yourself when nothing is working, because you know something deeper is being worked on inside you. Success doesn't knock. It doesn't arrive. It doesn't show up at your door with balloons. Success is summoned, pulled toward you by the gravity of your character, by the energy of your excellence, by the clarity of your intention. And the truth is, success doesn't care how you feel. It responds to how you move. It doesn't answer to your hopes. It answers to your habits. It doesn't care what you post. It cares what you practice. You can talk like a winner and still lose if your actions betray your words. But when you align the unseen, your thoughts, your discipline, your mindset, with the actions you repeat daily, you become unstoppable. Because now, success isn't something you're chasing. It's something you're becoming, something you're radiating, something that echoes from your presence before you ever say a word. That is the truth they never told you. And now that you know, the question is simple. Will you build it? Success begins where most people stop, right at the edge of boredom, right in the middle of repetition, right after the excitement fades and the real work starts. Because here's what they never teach you. Success is boring. It's not glamorous. It's not highlight reels and fireworks. It's waking up over and over and choosing to do what matters most, even when it doesn't feel magical. It's mastering the mundane, falling in love with the fundamentals. It's writing when no one's reading, practicing when no one's clapping, serving when no one's noticing. And it's in those quiet repetitions, Stacked day after day, that greatness is born. But the average mind can't handle boredom, so they quit. They jump to something new, something shinier, and they start again chasing dopamine, chasing validation, chasing a shortcut that doesn't exist. That's why you must choose to be different, to endure what most won't, to value consistency over novelty, depth over speed, mastery over popularity. Because in the long run, it's not the smartest who win. It's the most devoted. The ones who don't just dabble. They decide. Who don't just plan. They build. And the building isn't loud. It's not sexy. It's slow, relentless, brick by brick. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake slowness for failure. But slowness isn't failure. Slowness is foundation. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. And if you want success that lasts, not success that flashes and fades, you must dig. You must go deep when others go fast. You must go long when others go loud. You must show up when others sit down. Because the truth is, success won't meet you halfway. It will wait at the end of your commitment, at the edge of your effort, just past your excuses. That's where it lives. Not in your vision board, not in your hashtag, in your grit, in your grind, in your grace under pressure. In the days you want to give up but don't. In the choices you make when nobody would know if you slacked off. That's where real success is hiding, and it's watching. Watching how you treat the little things. Watching how you act when you think no one sees. Watching whether your standards bend when it gets hard. And if you prove yourself worthy not with talent but with tenacity, then it begins to move. Slowly at first. Quietly, but then momentum. And momentum doesn't ask permission. It builds, it multiplies. It breaks barriers that logic said couldn't move. And suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes your new baseline. Because success doesn't change your life. You change your life. And success responds. So now we strip away the lies, the illusions, the highlight reels. We talk about the real, the part no one posts, the long nights with no reward, the early mornings with no applause, the moments when doubt wraps around your throat like a vice and whispers, "Who do you think you are?" The truth is, success isn't made in crowds. It's forged in the quiet. It's built in the unshared hours. It's who you are when no one is watching, when the cameras are off, when the inbox is empty, when the likes are silent. That's when it happens. That's when the real work begins. When you show up anyway. When you stay true anyway. When you deliver anyway. Because you know that success doesn't show up on schedule. It shows up for those who stay. Who keep the promise long after the mood has left. Who've trained themselves to act from conviction, not convenience. You don't need more time. You need more truth. The truth that most people aren't willing to face. That comfort is a trap. That chasing approval will kill your authenticity. That waiting for motivation is just another excuse to do nothing. You don't need motivation. You need standards. You need systems. You need rituals that turn chaos into order, weakness into rhythm, and emotion into action. Because success isn't for the most emotional, it's for the most equipped. And equipping yourself means doing the work before the reward shows up. It means believing without proof, acting without praise, and rising without permission. That's what separates those who try from those who transform. That's why most people stay average. Because they wait to feel ready. Because they fear being misunderstood. Because they want guarantees in a game that only rewards grit. And here's the irony: the success you crave, the future you dream of, the life you're chasing. It's not hiding behind talent. It's hiding behind your patterns. Behind what you repeat, what you tolerate, what you allow, what you reinforce with your habits, your focus, your discipline. So ask yourself, what do I do when it's hard? What do I do when no one's clapping? What do I do when it's boring, slow, uncertain? Because how you answer that is your truth, not what you post, not what you say, what you do, daily, repeatedly, especially when it's difficult. That's where success is hiding, not in the future, but in your default settings. Change those, and everything changes. So here it is, the truth they never printed in books, never taught in classrooms, never said on stages filled with lights and smiles. Success is not a mystery. It's not magic. It's not reserved for the lucky or the loud. It's earned day by day by the ones who refuse to be ordinary, by the ones who choose alignment over applause, by the ones who are willing to be misunderstood today so they can be undeniable tomorrow. You want to create success? Then you must break the addiction to comfort. You must trade convenience for conviction. You must stop negotiating with your limitations and start renegotiating your future. Because success is not something you chase. It's something you construct. It's built in how you think, how you speak, how you show up, not once in a while, but always. It's not found in the grand gesture. It's found in the daily grit, in the hours no one counts, in the sacrifices no one sees, in the commitments no one claps for. It's what you build in the silence that echoes the loudest. And when you build long enough, true enough, hard enough, the world begins to respond, not immediately, not all at once, but unavoidably. Because success is not a lightning strike. It's a rising tide. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be brilliant. You need to be relentless, unapologetic in your standards, unshakable in your principles, unstoppable in your execution. That's what builds momentum. That's what creates results. That's what moves mountains. You want to rise? Then root yourself in truth, in growth, in mastery, not in image, not in hype, not in trying to look successful, but in becoming someone who no longer has to try. Because when success lives inside you, discipline, clarity, courage, ownership, it becomes impossible for the world not to feel it. You won't have to prove yourself. You'll just be it. Walk in rooms and shift the energy. Lead with calm when others panic. Stand firm when others beg for validation. Because success, real success, is magnetic, but only to those who carry it with quiet certainty. And that certainty doesn't come from ego. It comes from alignment. From building a life, a rhythm, a pattern where every thought, every word, every choice reflects the future you've decided to create. So now you stand at the edge. No more illusions. No more waiting. No more excuses dressed as logic. You know what it takes. You know it's not about luck, not about talent, not about someone picking you. It's about you picking yourself again and again and again until the world has no choice but to recognize what you've become. Because success doesn't come when you want it. It comes when you've earned it. Through choices no one applauded. Through sacrifices no one understood. Through repetitions no one respected until the result was undeniable. You want to know how to create success? You create it like a sculptor carves stone, by chipping away at everything that isn't you, at every lie, every fear, every excuse, every limitation that said stay safe when your soul said go. You create it by becoming the kind of person who can carry what you're asking for. Because success doesn't respond to hope. It responds to preparation. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you're ready for. So become ready. Get your mind right. Get your soul aligned. Build habits that match your ambition. Raise standards that make average uncomfortable. Set boundaries that protect your focus. Move like the future is yours, because it is if you're bold enough to claim it. There will be days you fall. Get up. There will be days you doubt. Get clear. There will be days you're tired. Keep moving. Because the truth is this: no one's coming to save you. But no one needs to, because you have everything inside you to save yourself. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need more followers. You need more follow through. You don't need perfect conditions. You need a permanent decision. And when you make it, when you truly make it, life moves. The right people show up. The right doors crack open. The right momentum begins to flow. Because the universe doesn't respond to fear, it responds to faith expressed through action. So don't wait another year. Don't wait for more certainty. Don't wait for someone to validate your vision. Start. Start scared. Start unsure. Start underprepared. Just start. And don't stop. Because the truth about how to create success is this: You don't wish for it. You work for it. You become it. You embody it. And when you do, the world doesn't just watch, it follows. Let me tell you a secret most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Safety is the greatest illusion ever sold. And the price you pay for chasing it is your potential. Every great thing you've ever dreamed of, every bold goal you've dared to write down, lives on the other side of risk. Not because life is cruel, not because success is reserved for the lucky, but because growth requires movement and movement requires uncertainty. You don't evolve in safety. You don't grow in comfort. And you definitely don't reach your greatest self by doing what you already know. You were not built to stay in one place. There is something in your spirit that craves expansion, that needs to break the walls of what's familiar so you can meet the version of you haven't become yet. And that's the real reason why risk is required. Because until you step into the unknown, you don't just avoid failure, you also avoid transformation. Until you take the leap, you'll never know what wings were waiting to unfold. You can stay safe, or you can become powerful. But you can't be both. Look around. Every person who has ever inspired you risked. They risked rejection. They risked failure. They risked being misunderstood, laughed at, walked away from. But they chose the discomfort of becoming over the illusion of security. Why? Because deep down they knew the risk of regret is always greater than the risk of failure. Because fear rarely announces itself as fear. It speaks with the voice of logic. It wears the mask of being realistic. It whispers things like, now's not the right time. What if you lose everything? Or, you're not ready yet. But that's not wisdom. That's not caution. That's camouflaged fear. Fear that has learned to speak in the language of justification. You call it timing. You call it strategy. You call it preparation. But what you're really doing is postponing your life. And here's what's cruel. Every day you delay your leap, your confidence erodes. Every time you ignore that inner pull, your belief withers. And one day you don't even need fear to stop you because you've trained yourself to stay small. Most people don't fail because they risked and lost. They fail because they never leapt at all. They wake up in the same job with the same habits, around the same people, telling the same story that they're waiting for the right moment. But the right moment is not something you wait for. It's something you decide to make. You don't become legendary by playing defense. You don't build an extraordinary life by avoiding discomfort. You rise by choosing to feel fear and move anyway. Every risk you avoid today becomes a boundary for tomorrow. And soon, you don't live in freedom. You live in a fenced version of your potential. You pace around your own limits and call it being responsible. But it's not responsibility. It's resignation. It's surrender. Dressed up in excuses. You want power? Then you have to be willing to risk comfort. You want growth? Then you have to be willing to risk familiarity. You want greatness? Then you have to be willing to risk being seen, being stretched, and maybe even failing but rising anyway. Because the truth is this, risk doesn't just shape outcomes. It reveals who you are. It pulls the curtain back. It strips away comfort and exposes your character. When the guarantee is gone, who do you become? Do you retreat or do you rise? You see, uncertainty is not your enemy, it's your training ground. It's where strength is formed. It's where resilience is forged, not by what you avoid, but by what you walk through. You don't become strong by reading about risk. You become strong by stepping into it again and again until the fear becomes familiar and the unknown becomes home. Because every time you risk, you reclaim power. Not because the outcome is guaranteed, but because you decided you were worth the attempt. You said, I will not let comfort keep me caged. You said, I'd rather be stretched than safe. You said, I am not here to play small. And something changes in you when you live like that. You stop begging life to hand you certainty, and you start building the capacity to lead through uncertainty. That's when people notice. That's when your energy shifts. That's when doors open. Not because you knocked, but because your energy breaks walls. Because people don't follow the most talented. They follow the bravest. The ones who risk being wrong. The ones who speak when it's hard. The ones who move when it's messy. The ones who go first. And here's the truth that sets the courageous apart. You don't rise by being fearless. You rise by being faithful in spite of fear. Then listen closely, because this is where it all comes together. Risk is not recklessness. It's not carelessness. It's not blind ambition. Risk is reverence. It's saying to life, I trust what's inside of me more than I fear what's in front of me. It's honoring your calling with movement. It's proving to yourself that your dreams are not decoration. They are destiny. And destiny doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to boldness. There is no such thing as a meaningful life without risk. Because anything worth living for, love, purpose, freedom, greatness, it all demands something of you. It asks you to let go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. It asks you to lose certainty and find conviction. It asks you to surrender comfort and pick up courage. It asks you to walk forward even when the road is foggy, even when the voices say, play it safe, even when your knees shake and say, I'm doing it anyway. Because you don't get to keep your old life and build a new one. You don't get to keep your comfort and claim your calling. You don't get to stay safe and rise. You have to choose. And here's the miracle. When you choose risk, you unlock revelation. You meet parts of yourself that only pressure can reveal. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You become magnetic not because you're fearless, but because you've been through fear and kept going. And soon you'll realize the risk wasn't risking at all. The real risk was never risking anything. The real danger was letting the dream die inside you because you were too afraid to trust the wings that were waiting to grow. So today, if you hear that voice calling you to stretch, to leap, to move, listen to it. That's not recklessness. That's not foolishness. That's life inviting you into greatness. And your job is to say yes. Most people write to be liked. But influence, real influence, isn't built through popularity. It's built through precision, through words that carry weight, through sentences that don't just inform, they move people. Because in business, writing isn't a task, it's a weapon. Every email, every post, every message is a test. Can you hold attention? Can you create clarity? Can you spark belief? If not, you're invisible. But if you can, you rise. Because those who shape words shape minds. And those who shape minds move markets. That's the writing you're here to master. Not fluff, not filler, not empty noise camouflaged as cleverness, but writing that commands, that shifts, that ignites, that cuts through the fog like a sword through silence. Writing that gets clients to trust, teams to move, investors to lean in, buyers to click, and people, real people, to feel seen, understood, and inspired to act. But let's get one thing straight. Powerful writing in business isn't about sounding smart. It's about making them feel smart. It's not about showcasing your vocabulary. It's about unlocking their vision. It's not a performance, it's a service. The better you write, the more clearly they see themselves succeeding with you. So where does it begin? It begins with clarity. Clarity isn't just a nice thing. It's the thing. If your message isn't clear, it doesn't matter how creative it is. Confused people don't buy. They don't follow. They don't move. And in a world drowning in content, clarity is a lifeline. To write with clarity, you must think with clarity. You must know exactly who you're talking to, what they're feeling, what they fear, and where they want to go. You're not writing to impress them. You're writing to join them in their tension and then show them the way out. Clarity isn't soft. It's not boring. It's sharp. It cuts through the fog. It says, here, this is the truth. This is what matters. This is what's possible. And when done right, it pierces through resistance and lands straight in the heart. Then comes rhythm. Because writing isn't just what you say, it's how it flows. Influence lives in cadence. Power lives in pacing. You don't just type words. You conduct them. You orchestrate tension. You shape silence. You decide when to punch, when to pause, when to press, when to breathe. A powerful sentence is more than language. It's a lever. It lifts belief. It moves action. It opens doors in the reader's mind that were previously locked. So write like a sculptor, cut everything that doesn't serve the form. Write like a musician, feel the beat of your words. Write like a boxer, know when to jab, when to strike, and when to hold. And never forget, emotion is the engine. Logic informs, but emotion transforms. If your writing doesn't move them, it won't matter how accurate it is. If they don't feel something, they won't do anything. That's not manipulation, that's connection. Because before people decide what's true, they decide what's real. And real always feels first. You're not just giving information. You're giving permission. Permission to believe, to dream, to change. And every line should walk them closer to the person they want to become with you, through you, because of what you wrote. Tone is the soul of your writing. It's not just what you say, it's how they hear it in their head. Tone is what makes someone lean in instead of scroll past. What makes your words feel like a conversation instead of a commercial? What makes your voice unforgettable? In business, your tone must carry confidence without ego, warmth without weakness, authority without arrogance. It's the difference between shouting and shining, between pressure and presence. A confident tone says, I've done the work. A clear tone says, you're safe here. A real tone says, I see you. And when your writing embodies that energy, it doesn't just transfer information, it transfers trust. That's influence. And that's how you win. Next, anchor your writing in identity. Because in a noisy marketplace, the strongest voice always wins. But a strong voice doesn't mean loud. It means rooted. Rooted in your beliefs, your style, your rhythm, your stance. Don't sound like everyone else. Don't chase the trending tone. Don't water yourself down to appeal to more people. That's how you end up reaching no one. The more specific your voice, the more magnetic your writing becomes. Be bold, be direct, be unmistakable. Because the truth is, if your writing sounds like it could come from anyone, then it won't mean anything to anyone. Specificity is your scalpel. Vagueness is the enemy of persuasion. If your reader has to guess what you mean, they're already gone. Your writing should not only be vivid, it should be surgical. Every word should feel chosen. Every line should feel earned. Don't say, better business. Say, triple your recurring revenue in 6 months without adding staff. Don't say, help you grow. Say, help you break through that revenue ceiling you've been stuck under for 2 years. Specific writing is felt. It's trusted. It hits like truth. Because it doesn't just speak to the mind, it mirrors the reader's experience. And that's where storytelling comes in. Stories are not entertainment. They're transportation. A great story doesn't just teach, it transfers. It takes the reader from where they are into a moment, a lesson, a vision. And inside that story, they don't just learn, they feel. And once they feel, they move. Don't just tell them you overcame something, show them the night you almost quit. Don't just claim your strategy works. Walk them through the mess before the breakthrough. Don't just state your values. Show them what you said no to when it would have been easier to say yes. Because story makes your writing stick. It doesn't bounce off the surface. It roots itself inside them and lingers. And here's the truth no one wants to hear. If your words don't linger, your brand won't either. Authority isn't declared, it's demonstrated. And in writing, authority doesn't come from saying, I'm an expert. It comes from writing in a way that proves you are without ever needing to say it. Because real authority doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't boast. Real authority is quiet power. It's confidence wrapped in clarity. It's precision that pierces without pressure. And the most powerful way to write with authority is to write like someone who knows the struggle, knows the solution, knows the stakes, and knows how to lead someone from confusion to conviction. Your writing builds authority when it leads, not when it entertains, not when it impresses, when it leads, line by line, word by word. It walks the reader from, I don't know what to do, to, this is the way forward. And the secret? It's not about you. It's about them. The more deeply you understand them, the more undeniable your authority becomes. Because in a world full of writers who want attention, the ones who earn influence are the ones who offer clarity. So, how do you convert without selling? How do you move hearts and wallets without manipulation? You stop pushing and you start aligning. You write in a way that reflects their reality. You meet them in their moment. You articulate their problem better than they've ever heard it described. And then, when you present the offer, it doesn't feel like a pitch. It feels like a path. Persuasion isn't about pressure. It's about precision. It's not about changing minds. It's about unlocking what's already there. That means knowing the real pain underneath the surface level complaint. That means naming the desire behind the data. That means painting a picture of the outcome so clear they can feel themselves living in it. Conversion writing is service-driven. It's not, here's why I'm amazing. It's, here's what you've been stuck in, and here's how we walk out together. And if you want your writing to build lasting influence, it must reshape identity. Because the most powerful writing doesn't just shift thoughts. It shifts self-perception. It takes someone from, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stuck, I'm behind, to, I'm capable, I'm ready, I'm done waiting. That kind of writing doesn't talk at people. It talks to the part of them that's been waiting to be woken up. So write to the future version of your reader, the version that's braver, bolder, clearer. Speak to their potential, not their pain. Don't just show them what's wrong, show them who they can become. And when they feel seen by your writing, when they recognize themselves in your words, they won't just follow you. They'll thank you. They'll remember you. And they'll move because of you. Because at the end of the day, writing isn't just about communication. It's about creation. You are not just writing content. You are building bridges, opening doors, lighting torches. You are creating momentum where there was once paralysis, vision where there was once fog, power where there was once doubt. And when you understand that, you stop treating your writing like a task on a to-do list. You start treating it like the lever that moves everything else. Because it is. The right words can unlock a sale. The right message can shift a market. The right sentence can rewire a person's self-belief for life. That's not hype. That's the quiet truth behind every influential brand, every meaningful movement, every lasting business. Someone wrote something powerful enough to make someone else believe again. So if you're serious about building influence in business, don't start with your funnel. Start with your pen, with your process, with your intention, with your obsession with clarity, your reverence for rhythm, your demand for depth. Because writing isn't something you do once the real work is done. Writing is the work. It's where the vision gets shaped. It's where the voice gets found. It's where the value gets proven before you ever speak a word or sell a thing. And the most successful people in business, they write with identity. They write with intention. They write like leaders, not because they want attention, but because they want to serve at scale. So don't just write to publish. Write to pierce, to provoke, to clarify, to convert, to empower, to elevate, to lead. And when you do that, when your writing starts breathing with the heartbeat of someone who cares, people will notice. They'll feel it. They'll remember it. And more importantly, they'll respond to it. Because writing done right doesn't just create content. It creates connection. It creates conviction. And in the end, it creates change. So write like it matters. Because it does. Write like your future depends on it. because it might. Write like it's your legacy being carved, one line at a time, because that's exactly what it is. And when it's all said and done, and your business has scaled and your brand has grown and your influence has reached places you never imagined, you'll look back and realize it started with one sentence, one truth, one choice to write like a leader and never look back. Let me tell you something most people never figure out. The world doesn't move on truth alone. It moves on belief. It moves on influence. It moves when someone somewhere says the right words in the right tone at the right time, and suddenly doors open, minds shift, resistance melts, and people say the one word that changes everything. Yes, not because they were forced, not because they were tricked, but because something about that moment, something about you, gave them permission to believe, to trust, to follow, to take a chance. This is the art of persuasion. And let me be clear, this is not manipulation. This is mastery. The mastery of connection, the mastery of energy, the mastery of intent. Because when you truly understand what makes people say yes, you no longer chase opportunities, you create them. You don't hope for influence, you command it. You don't beg for attention, you earn it. With presence, with power, with purpose. And the first secret, the foundation of all persuasion is certainty. People do not follow need. They do not follow desperation. They do not follow indecision. They follow certainty. The one who moves people is the one who knows who they are, what they believe, and where they're going, and they say it like they mean it. If your voice trembles, the room will doubt. If your conviction is weak, the world will hesitate. But when your soul speaks with alignment, with conviction, with clarity, you don't just communicate, you transmit. Certainty is magnetic. It draws people in, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. And clarity is the rarest language of all. So I'll ask you, no. Were you clear on who you are? Because persuasion doesn't start with other people. It starts with persuading yourself. You must become the first believer in what you say. You must be sold on the value you bring. You must know in your bones that your offer, your message, your vision is worth leaning into. And if you don't believe it, no one else will. This is the internal work that fuels external power. Next comes the rhythm of words. The way you speak matters. Have you ever noticed how some people can speak a single sentence and the room quiets, while others ramble for hours and say nothing of weight? It's not just what they say, it's how they say it. Great persuaders speak with structure. They speak with music. Their words have a pulsy rise and fall, a cadence that feels inevitable. Not rushed, not chaotic intentional. Because humans don't just respond to logic, they respond to feeling. They say, I don't know why, but I just feel like I can trust her. I can't explain it, but something about the way he said it, it stuck with me. That's not an accident. That's technique. That's tone. That's the art of landing your words in the nervous system, not just the brain. But none of that works without presence. Presence is persuasion's secret weapon. When you are truly here, when you are fully in the moment, not scattered, not rehearsing, not doubting, but rooted, people feel it. Presence is rare in a distracted world. And anything rare becomes valuable. So the moment you show up fully attuned, alert, listening, grounded, you become powerful. Most people live like ghost chaff, present, half distracted, half alive. But when you bring your whole self to a conversation, when your eyes say, I see you, when your energy says, I'm with you, when your words say, I understand you, people lean in, they open, they soften, and the gate to influence swings wide open. And let's talk now about the greatest tool in the persuader's arsenal. Questions. See, amateurs speak to convince. Masters ask to uncover. Because the secret to getting people to say yes is not to tell them what they need, it's to help them realize it themselves. And nothing pulls truth from the soul faster than the right question. Why do you think that hasn't worked for you yet? What would it mean to finally get this handled? If you knew success was guaranteed, what would you do next? These are not random. These are precision tools, designed to bypass the surface and hit the core. Because here's the truth. People don't change because of your advice. They change because of their own realizations. So the great persuader is not a preacher, they're a mirror. They hold space for clarity to emerge. They create conditions for truth to rise. They ask, they listen, and they reflect what others have been too afraid or too distracted to see. And then only then do they guide. Because persuasion is a dance, not a dictatorship. It's a rhythm of give and take, speak and pause, offer and wait, push and release. And just like a dance, it requires attunement to mood, to energy, to resistance. You don't bulldoze someone into yes. You invite them into it. You make the path appealing, obvious, irresistible. And the way you do that is through story. Facts tell, stories sell, because stories bypass skepticism. They slip under defenses. They make people feel something. A statistic makes you nod. A story makes you believe. You can say 90% of people fail because they never take action. And someone might agree. But if you say, let me tell you about a man I knew, talented, hungry, filled with potential, but he waited too long. He kept saying, next week, next year, when I'm ready. And when life finally handed him the opportunity, he had no fire left to take it. That hits different. That lands because we are wired for story. We see ourselves in story. And when someone sees themselves in your message, they say yes. Not because of you, but because of them. Because something clicked inside. Something lit up. Something said, this is me, and I need to move. So here's what you must remember. Persuasion is not about pushing. It's about awakening. It's not about conquest. It's about connection. It's not about getting your way. It's about showing someone their way more clearly, more powerfully, more vividly than they've ever seen it before. This is not about trickery. This is about transformation. And you can only lead others there if you've walked it yourself. So become persuasive not by learning tactics, but by becoming magnetic. By being so aligned with your message, so congruent with your energy, so present with your words, so generous with your intent, that people don't just hear you, they trust you. Because the most persuasive person in the room is not the one with the loudest voice. It's the one with the clearest spirit. And when your spirit speaks, the world says yes. There is another truth no one talks about enough. Persuasion, real persuasion, begins before a single word leaves your mouth. It begins with how you see the world, because your view of people determines your approach to people. If you see people as obstacles, you'll try to overpower them. If you see people as wallets, you'll try to sell them. But if you see people as mirrors, reflections of the same hunger, fear, longing, and hope that lives in you, then you don't try to conquer them, you connect. And when people feel that you see them not just as a means to an end, but as human, worthy, important, they listen. Not because you demanded attention, but because you earned resonance. You touched something ancient inside them. You reminded them that beneath the noise, the roles, the masks, we are the same. That's the paradox of persuasion. You become more powerful the moment you stop trying to win people and start trying to understand them. That's when everything shifts, because now you're not speaking at them. You're speaking from within them. And here's where clarity comes in. You cannot persuade if you are not clear. If your mind is foggy, your message will fumble. If your intention is scattered, your influence will fall flat. The world is full of noisome millions of voices shouting at once. So when you speak, you better make it count. You better speak with a blade, not a broom. Cut through, pierce through, hit the heart. That means before you open your mouth, you must ask yourself, what do I really want them to feel? What do I want them to know? What decision do I want them to make, not just in their mind, but in their bones? Clarity sharpens your energy, and people can feel when you're clear, just like they can feel when you're bluffing, when you're vague, when you're uncertain, even if your words are smooth. Don't underestimate the radar people have for realness. You want to be persuasive? Be clear. You want people to say yes? Give them a reason to trust your direction. Because clarity leads, and people want to follow someone who knows where they're going. Now let's talk about vision. Because persuasion isn't just about solving problems, it's about casting possibilities. The greatest persuaders don't just convince you to leave where you are. They paint a picture of where you could be. They hold a mirror to your potential, not just your pain. They don't say, "You're broken, let me fix you." They say, "You're powerful, and I'm here to wake it up." That's vision. Vision makes people rise. Vision makes people move. Because people aren't hungry for more products, more noise, more empty promises. They're hungry for meaning, for purpose, for a story worth stepping into. And if you can describe the future better than they can imagine it, they'll follow you straight into it. But here's the catch. You cannot give a vision you haven't seen yourself. You must have tasted it, touched it, believed it. You must speak of the mountaintop because you've climbed either because you're climbing it now. If your vision is borrowed, recycled, half believed, no one will follow you. Because we can't lead people into places we're not willing to go. So before you try to get anyone else to say yes, you need to say yes to your own vision. Yes to the work. Yes to the responsibility. Yes to the pressure of carrying purpose in a world that celebrates noise over truth. And when your yes is real, when your yes has roots, others will feel it. Let's bring in the muscle that supports it all. Discipline. Because you can have clarity. You can have belief. You can even have vision. But if you don't have discipline, you will be inconsistent. And inconsistency kills persuasion. One day you're lit with energy, the next day you disappear. One day you're inspiring, the next day you're scrambling. And people notice because consistency builds credibility. Discipline says, you can count on me. I don't show up only when I feel like it. I show up because I said I would. You want to persuade others? Start by keeping the promises you make to yourself. If you say you're going to study, do it. If you say you're going to train, do it. If you say you're going to build, speak, write, lead, do it. Not perfectly, but persistently. Because when you respect your own word, others begin to trust it too. Discipline doesn't make you robotic. Discipline makes you reliable. And in a world filled with broken promises, unreliability, and fake charisma, being real, consistent, and clear is your greatest competitive edge. Let's now talk about what turns words into motion. Action. You can know all the techniques. You can read all the books. You can listen to all the speeches. But none of it matters until you use it. Until you test it. Until you risk hearing no. Because here's the truth. Persuasion is not theory. It's practice. It's sweat. It's rhythm. It's rejection. It's recalibration. And every great persuader you admire today, they weren't born with the ability. They built it through awkward conversations, through feedback, through misfires, through refinement. So stop waiting until you know enough. Stop preparing endlessly. Stop thinking your confidence will come before you act. Confidence doesn't precede action. Confidence is the reward for courage. Say that again. Confidence is the reward for courage. It's the fruit of showing up again and again, even when your voice shakes, even when the room goes cold, even when they don't buy, even when they don't clap, because you're becoming the person who leads anyway. That's real power. That's real persuasion. And when people see that you don't flinch, that you don't back down, when the yes doesn't come immediately, they respect you. Because the world doesn't just need convincing voices. It needs convicted ones. Ones that don't sway in the wind of opinion. Ones that are rooted in principle. Ones that act from alignment, not approval. And when your action matches your message, when your life is your pitch, people say yes before you even open your mouth. Because the world doesn't just need more voices. It needs more anchors. People who don't get blown away by rejection. People who aren't addicted to applause. People who can walk into a room, speak truth with calm fire, and leave even if no one claps knowing they did what needed to be done. That's rare, that's real, that's irresistible. You want to know what makes people say yes without hesitation? It's alignment. When your words match your energy, when your actions match your message, when your story matches your standards, you become undeniable. You become someone others want to follow, not because you told them to, but because they feel safer in your direction than in their own hesitation. And here's another truth. People don't just say yes to you. They say yes to who they become in your presence. They say yes to the version of themselves you reflect back to them. So, if you want to be more persuasive, stop obsessing over your pitch and start elevating your presence. Because presence creates permission. When someone feels seen by you, when someone feels understood by you, when someone feels lifted by the way you hold space for their highest self, they say yes because they want more of that. They want more of themselves, the way you showed them they could be. That's not sales. That's service. That's not closing. That's calling. Because great persuasion isn't about pushing people across the finish line. It's about drawing out the hero that's been waiting to rise. So now we arrive at one of the most overlooked, yet most potent pieces of persuasion. Gratitude. Yes, gratitude. Why? Because gratitude is grounding. Gratitude keeps your influence from turning into arrogance. It keeps your power pure. When you're grateful not just for outcomes, but for the opportunity to speak, to serve, to lead you, stop sounding like a manipulator and start sounding like a missionary. And people can feel that difference. Gratitude brings humility. Humility brings trust. And trust opens doors that strategy alone never could. When you enter a conversation with a heart full of appreciation, not entitlement, you don't try to extract value from others. You add value. You elevate. You uplift. You give without keeping score. And in doing so, people lean closer. They listen longer. And more often than not, they say yes. Not just to your offer, but to your energy. Let's move forward to something that separates the amateurs from the artists. Adaptability. Because you can be the most skilled speaker in the world, but if you can't read the room, you'll lose the room. If you can't sense when to lean in and when to pull back, if you can't pivot when someone's guard goes up, if you deliver a scripted monologue while ignoring the signals right in front of you, you become predictable. And persuasion dies in predictability. The greatest persuaders are not locked into scripts, they're synchronized with the moment. They listen, they feel, they observe, they respond. They adjust their tone, their pace, their volume, their story, not to manipulate, but to meet people where they are. Because if you meet people where they are, you can take them where they've never been. But if you preach from a distance, you'll never move them an inch. So ask yourself, are you trying to be impressive or impactful? Because adaptability is not weakness, it's wisdom. You're not changing your truth. You're changing your delivery so that the truth actually lands. This is where resilience enters. Because, let's be honest, there will be people who don't say yes. There will be doors that don't open. There will be audiences that stare blankly, clients who ghost you, critics who mock you, and even friends who doubt you. And in those moments, your ego will want to shut down, to pull back, to protect itself from rejection. But your mission has to be stronger than your pride. Because if one no can make you question your message, you were never carrying a message. You were carrying a need for approval. But if you can keep speaking truth even when it echoes, if you can keep showing up even when your voice trembles, if you can hold your ground not with aggression but with peaceful certainty, you become unshakable. And that is when people start to trust you. Because they're not just watching what you say, they're watching what you do when it's hard. Resilience is persuasive. Because when others fold and you stay, when others fade and you remain, when others doubt and you still deliver, people can't ignore you anymore. Because you've become something very few ever become. Reliable. Reliable people are rare. And What is rare becomes valuable. In a world where people quit at the first sign of discomfort, in a world where everyone wants to be heard but few want to listen, in a world where people show up only when it's easy, you become persuasive the moment you consistently do what others refuse to. You show up, not for attention, but out of alignment. You speak, not to impress, but to impact. You ask, not to control, but to connect. This is the kind of reliability that moves nations, the kind of reliability that builds movements, the kind of reliability that makes your yes powerful and your no respected. And now let's go to the final piece, learning. See, persuasion is not a final destination. It's not a medal you earn and hang on your chest forever. It's a practice, a process, a path of endless refinement. Because people change, culture changes, language shifts, contexts evolve. So the master persuader never stops learning. You study human behavior not out of manipulation, but out of curiosity. You listen, not just to respond, but to understand. You watch great communicators not to copy their tactics, but to understand their timing, rhythm, energy, because persuasion is as much about timing as it is about technique. It's the dance of knowing when to pause, when to punch, when to whisper, when to rise. And the only way to learn that is to keep showing up, to speak and stumble, to ask and misstep, to risk rejection again and again, not because you enjoy it, but because your mission matters more than your comfort. Learning makes you dangerous because now your message isn't frozen in time, it's alive. It breathes, it adapts, it grows. And people don't want perfection, they want real. They want someone who grows with them, who learns, adjusts, listens, applies, improves. Someone who doesn't pretend to know it all, but shows they're committed to getting better, to serving better, to communicating with excellence. And excellence is magnetic, not perfection excellence. Excellence says, I take this seriously. I honor your attention. I value your time. So I bring my best every time. That's what changes lives. Not a clever phrase, not a viral slogan, but a consistent, evolving, deeply human voice, yours. A voice that has wrestled with doubt and chosen courage. A voice that has met rejection and chosen resilience. A voice that has failed and learned and stood back up, not as a victim, not as a salesman, but as a leader. And so I leave you with this. If you want to be persuasive, become someone worth listening to. Not because you're the loudest, not because you know the most, but because you've earned your voice, because you've lived what you teach, because your presence calms the room, your story lifts the room, and your words move the room. That's persuasion, not a trick, not a script, but a transformation in you first and through you in others. So speak, stand tall, be clear, be grounded, serve, invite, connect, challenge, and always believe in what you're asking people to believe in. Because if you do that long enough, deep enough, loud enough with your life, you'll never have to push people to say yes. They'll say it willingly because the truth in your voice reminded them of the truth in their own. And that is the highest persuasion of all. Imagine this. You walk into a room and you don't need to speak loudly. No gimmicks, no proving. You simply stand there steady as a mountain. Your eyes don't seek approval, they offer trust. Your voice doesn't scream to be heard, it lands straight into people's hearts. Your presence silences the room. Not because you are intimidating, but because you are so clear, so grounded, so real, you cannot be ignored. And when you speak, people listen, not just with their ears, but with their entire being. Because in your words, they don't just hear your message, they hear their own calling. You're not persuading them for a yes. You're awakening what has been sleeping inside them. You're not manipulating, you're illuminating. You're not shouting, you're stirring. That is real power. Power that doesn't come from force, but from honesty, integrity, and the unshakable alignment of your soul. Power that doesn't come from making people believe in you, but from helping them believe again in themselves. And if there is one truth I want you to carve into your spirit, it is this. Persuasion does not begin with others. It begins with you. You are the message. You are the mirror. You are the gateway others will walk through to find the greatest version of themselves. And only when you live that truth, only when you commit to being a fire not to burn, but to ignite, you will not only persuade, you will transform the world.